It's very sad when you think about and when you see the Jezzy and Jeannie Mai situation. And it's very sad. It's very sad when someone gets divorced. I know in America, it's normal, and people think, you know, it's okay just to get divorced if things don't work out, blah, blah, blah. But I'm gonna say it's a very sad situation, and you guys should learn about this, because I get a lot of pushback from being in Africa, for being in Nigeria, because I chose to be in Nigeria. And one of the reasons why I chose to be here is because I didn't want to date Nigerian women in America, because they're worse than American women, because our parents, if you come from like a Nigerian home, even if you grew up in the US, you're pushed to get all these degrees and this and that. And you know that the school system in the US is basically an indoctrination camp, usually to push, you know, the agendas. And a lot of people get victims of that, especially women that move from other countries and just want to get education and a degree. They end up being like, you know, the Western women. They end up being westernized. They end up being modernized, you know. And when you meet any woman from any country in the US versus when you meet them in their country, it's a big difference. It's a very, very big difference. That's why I keep telling brothers, leave Western women. Like you think it's an escape to date a foreign woman in America, instead of actually going to the country, to the source, to actually get women that are still ingrained in that culture. So when you get a woman from Vietnam or Cambodia, like Jeannie Mai is, she grew up in the US, she's westernized, she's Asian, she looks Asian, she looks like the woman in her country, but the software is different, because the software have been programmed different. And you guys don't understand. You want to date foreign women in America, you want to marry foreign women in America. You don't understand that the fact that they are just like the women there, even though the hardware doesn't look like the hardware there. It might be a darker hardware or a lighter hardware or Asian hardware. It doesn't matter. You have to go to these countries to pick a wife. You can't marry these Western women in America thinking, oh, because she's Asian, because she's this and that she's going to be different. No, she's not. She's going to be just like those Western women. And even if you bring a woman from these countries, it's a no-no. You don't bring women back. We already know that. It's a big risk that they are going to be westernized, especially if they go into the workforce, if they go into the education system, if they start making friends with American women, especially in the job and the education system. That's the places where they get indoctrinated, because jobs too indoctrinate you as well. Right from the application, are you LGHGDDQ? What do you identify as? All those applications just program you, you know, and then when you go to work, you go through training, and those trainings indoctrinate you as well into the system. Oh, you must do this, you must do that, you must be this, you must be that. It kind of brings you into that mindset, even if you don't want to be, unconsciously. So these women are victim to this, even if they don't want to be. You know, Jeannie Mai faked it until she couldn't fake it anymore. She faked it until she got the ring. She said she was going to be a very submissive wife to Jezzy, and maybe she was in the beginning, and maybe that was the way to get the bait, to get the fish on the hook, and it did, and he married her. But the unfortunate part is 2 years later, he figured, let me cut my losses, because if he keeps going, it'll be worse. But the thing about it is, men don't file divorce in the US. So for him to actually file, it had to be very bad. It had to be very bad. And the number one thing that I think Jezzy was looking for is his peace. The number two is respect. I don't think she had those two. And these women don't have that in America. They don't give you respect. They don't give you respect at all. And they don't give you peace of mind. They just don't. They just don't. I think Jezzy wanted a stable, normal relationship. She kept going, talking about their sexual life, talking about their relationship. I can't be in a relationship like that. And I know that as a man, for Jezzy, he didn't want his relationship to be in the spotlight. He wanted to create a family. He wanted to have kids, to have a normal life, not his wife going around talking about this, talking about that, you know, and this is Jesus' fault because he married her, number one. Or number two, he should have had this conversation. Look, our relationship has to be public, has to be private. You don't discuss any private information out in the public. You know, I mean, there are communities in the U.S. that actually work, but those communities are what you call a community. They're not just, you know, they're not just a Western woman just running around running their mouth. I mean, you don't see Jewish women running their mouth about their family, or first generation Asians. She's not first generation, she's second. She's, you know, she was raised in the U.S., you know. And when you meet some of these people that were raised in those countries, that moved and migrated, you can see the difference of how the respect goes, how the unity of the family goes. You don't spill the beans. You don't talk about private stuff out in public. She's on panels. She's doing interviews talking about that intimate life of her giving him guac 3000 and letting one slip. Like all this stuff that you can see online. So of course she's not going to want to be in that. And no man, especially a man that's established like him, it's a multimillionaire, you know, he doesn't really need that. He doesn't need the clout. He doesn't need anything. He can take the back seat, keep investing and raising his family. But I don't think he got that from her. And it's because he thought he was getting an Asian woman, but he didn't know that the software is American. The software is not Asian. The software is modern feminism. The software was, you know, modern, very loud, you know, woman. And I don't think he vetted her right. I don't think he did his job to vet her to see if she was really the one for him, which is the biggest mistake that he made. And it's a big mistake that you guys make. You guys are not Jeezy. You probably don't have Jeezy money. But at the end of the day, a lot of you are still making the same decisions. You're saying, okay, I don't want to leave the Western countries, but I think I'll find a foreign woman here that I can be with, but that's wrong. It's still not going to work. You have to leave the West. You have to leave the West. You have to leave the West for it to work, because they need to be in their natural habitat where they're raised to be that way. And the whole community, the whole society is keeping them accountable to be that way. So this would be a lesson for you guys. For you guys saying, oh, you're in Nigeria. Oh, Nigerian women are Western women. I dated a Nigerian woman in Houston, Texas. Yeah, that's Houston, Texas. That's not Nigeria. A Nigerian woman in Houston, Texas, and a Nigerian woman in the U.S. Sorry, a Nigerian woman in Houston, Texas, and a Nigerian woman in Nigeria are two way different people. I've dated both. Two way different people. The way they talk, the way they think, the way they act, the respect level, the level of cooperation. Everything is different. Everything in general. Because I dated lots of African women and just foreign women in general in the U.S. and abroad. And I know there's a big, big difference. So you guys are not going to see the difference until you actually get your passport, until you actually leave the West, until you actually know that, okay, for me to get the level of cooperation, the level of respect, and what I deserve to get, I need to put in the work to make myself so good financially, physically, emotionally. And I'm looking forward to this treatment so I can have to go to that country to get it. I'm not going to get it here, and I'm not going to bring them back here. For you guys looking to stay in the United States, you might just well just be with an American woman, because you going and bringing them back, if you're still thinking that way, because I know a few of you that still think about that, it's not going to work. I mean, it might work in a couple of cases if you kind of choose the environment you're going to be. But in general, in a society like that, that's so toxic, everything is toxic. Like at some point, it's, you know, at some point, you're going to risk a lot. You're going to risk a lot. And all that work you did to bring her over there, everything will just fall on the wayside because you decided to bring her into an environment that you are trying to run away from, but you're staying in that environment, you know. So the best thing you could do is let your dollars work, let the power of the dollar work for you, where you can live an easier life, where you can live a softer life, where you can be in countries where your dollar goes a long way. The dollar is weakening, but it's still stronger than a lot of currencies. As the dollar is weakening, a lot of other countries and currencies are weakening even more. So the dollar is still on par with a lot of countries, right? No matter what country you choose to go, you want to go to Brazil, you want to go to Ghana, you want to go to Kenya, you want to go to South Africa, you want to go to the Middle East, right? You don't have to go where everybody else is going. Well, make sure that if you love a woman from a certain country, you need to go to where they are. Do not date them in the U.S. like Jezzy did. Do not date them and do not bring them back to the U.S. Because even if you try to raise your kids there, your kids will be westernized. Your kids will be, your kids will be going to those same schools. So you have to think about the future. It's not just you. Even if she doesn't get to be a westernized woman, if you bring her back to the U.S., what about your children, right? What kind of education are they getting? What are they teaching them? The kids nowadays in the U.S., I mean, they have zero respect, nothing. They know nothing about anything, right? And they're going to school. You have children of 12, 13 years old having super gonorrhea in school. Like, it's happening in the U.S. And for you to avoid that, you actually have to live in another country. You can't do what Jesus did, right? And he figured that out late because she became a chameleon. She did what she had to do to get the ring, and then she started exploding. Maybe anger issues or lack of respect or just spilling beans from your private life and your family. Imagine what happens in your private home. Your wife is on interviews for the whole world to hear everything that happened. That's lack of respect for you, for her, for everything. And then you have a child at that. There's no privacy. So you guys have to think about this. You have a lot to think of. But for you guys that are still on the fence or that don't want to leave the West, I'm not saying you have to leave, but I'm saying just leave this, just know that you're going to get the same results if you date foreign women that are over there. Even she might seem more traditional than your regular American woman, but at the end of the day, you're going to get the same results. You're going to get the same results because you're in the same society. You're in the same society. You're in the same atmosphere. The software is being programmed the same. There's nothing you could do about it. And there's no way out. The only way out is for you to get your passport and leave. They're making it more difficult for people to get their passport. They're making it more difficult for people to leave. And the U.S. knows this. That's why they're easily just opening their borders for people to come in so they can have more slaves to work for them. I'm telling you right now, it makes no difference if she's from Vietnam or Cambodia or nothing. If she's in the U.S., she's in the U.S., she's westernized, leave her alone. If you really want something from a certain country, you go to that country, you get your passport, and you leave. I know it sounds easy, but it's something you can start working on. You can start visiting, go visit for a couple of days, go visit for a couple of months, a couple of weeks, and then you can just navigate your future from there. Figure out what country you want to move to, and if you want a woman from a certain country, if you want if you want to be in a certain geographical location, you want to save taxes in a certain area, you want to build a business in a certain area, you like certain people, you love certain women from certain countries, go to that country. Leave them alone in the West. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. We already told y'all, being a passport bro is not easy, but it's something you can work on. And at the end of the day, you're going to have a way brighter and better future because now you're making dollars and your dollars are going a long way. You're in their natural habitat where they're kept accountable, right? And you have nothing else to lose but just to keep stacking and just building your family, building your legacy with a woman that's on your side. But in the U.S., everybody's been split different. Everybody's been split apart. There's a gender war, race war, any war you can think of. Straight and, not straight war. Like, you can't escape this. So the Jesus situation needs to teach you a certain lesson of, that you should leave foreign women alone in the Western countries and go to the source where they came from to get those women. Like, subscribe. We have more videos coming. Peace, guys. Until another one.